that my friend John Paul was coming. What you didn't know is I have a bunch of other speakers. John Paul Pianta, Christian Ster, Tobias. I don't see Tobias here. Where is he? He's coming later. He's always a little bit behind. Douglas. Some of you don't know Douglas. Douglas also graduated Palmer when I was in Windelhose, like John Paul. So between the two of them, there's quite a few years of collective wisdom of chiropractic. I think those guys have forgotten more than I've learned in my life. And Alexander Burka. So there's 3 DCs and 3 former surgeons that now practice chiropractic. They're going to be speaking to you this weekend. And some of you know about these guys that I've taught, some of you haven't, but I asked them to share their stories because I think it's fairly inspirational. Most people don't know that there are people in the world that have worked themselves to the top of the food chain in medicine that decided to throw away all that validity to do what we do. And we also have a young fellow just graduated from EFEC, and he came all the way here because in most chiropractic colleges, philosophy has become something to chastise and get rid of. And it's gotten so bad in Europe that I don't know if I should show these slides. I think I'm going to start because it's not negativity, but I want all of you to understand the chiropractic profession as a whole, in my opinion, is dead. It's been dead. You know, the corpse is getting dirt thrown on it. Very few chiropractors in the world believe in the science, art, and philosophy of chiropractic anymore. There's a big movement in Europe right now being led by the biggest chiropractic college, AECC in Bournemouth, to do away with people like us. That people that are practicing subluxation-based chiropractic should literally be tossed out, and we should only be focusing on the musculoskeletal disorders of the scourge of humanity. And I actually can't put it into words how this is, so I have just a couple of slides from the director of research that I wanted you all to see, and you're going to have so you can possess them yourself. Man, am I getting old. Yes. This is a mission statement. A European declaration from Dr. Newell, the director of research, who has a degree in molecular biology. You'll notice his degree because he's not a chiropractor, but he's trying to lay down the foundation of the future of how all of us can and cannot practice. Why is this significant? Because this is the largest chiropractic institution. They have the largest influence over the European Council on Chiropractic Education that is actually a German organization. And when I first looked at this, it sent the hairs on my neck up because he's a very educated man. And if you didn't know the situation, you'd go, wow, he really makes a valid point. These subluxation-based people are nutballs. So, he lays out time for a choice, pose a question, the incident, facing the problem, solutions, declaring intentions, moving forward. The incident, an outrageous claim, an indignant complaint, a fundamentalist rebuff, the roar of the moderate majority, support for the stand discussion willingness of a large number of chiropractors to publicly counter fundamentalism. So, you need to understand that he's labeling chiropractic, philosophically based chiropractic, as fundamentalist. And he considers the foundation of chiropractic like a sect, the church of chiropractic, lack of unity, poorly articulated consensus, perceived lack of passion. And he has as the major difficulty is that his group is not countering real chiropractic enough. Not in the media, not with propaganda. So, how do they have solutions? Move from who we are to how we can serve. From promoting the profession to supporting the profession to better serve. And here it is, right here. Supporting, managing, and intervening to help shoulder the musculoskeletal burden. What is a burden? It's almost like the plague, like this pest, this horrible disease festering, that what's really, really, what they're not addressing, what he's stating here, is the scourge of humanity is not disconnected people who have severe neurological interference, but musculoskeletal disorders, that evil back pain. You know, that's really what's destroying humanity, is the musculoskeletal disorders. So, how do we do this? Core scope, MSK specialist, manual physical, psychosocial, public health, core grounding, evidence-based. This is, yes, this is his laying out for the European community on legalizing and regulating what chiropractors can and can't do. And you can see this in a lot of countries, in the Scandinavian countries, where it is against the law to put your hands on a child under 12 years old. Against the law. Forbidden, because it's so dangerous. Now here is what he's labeling as, this is what's got to go. Monotherapeutic, that you nutballs using the adjustment, you've got to go. Monotheorized, subluxation theory, unnecessary and divisive, that you people are the problem, you got to go. And publicly eschewing vitalism and energy flow, that you nutballs talking about the vital force and the connection, you are just crazy, and you've got to go. Now, here's his solution. Training our graduates, evidence-based musculoskeletal support management intervention, dynamic curriculum review linked to ECCE accreditation, meaning we're going to lay down the framework, and who we're going to use to enforce it is the governing organizations that dictate to the educational institutions what they can and can't teach. Which is why right now the European Council on Chiropractic Education, which is actually a couple of Germans, will not certify BCC. So they have a big problem. And recognize this isn't some European institution, okay? This is an e-file. You look at their website, there's one guy. And yeah, go to their offices and sit and get an adjustment, and you can figure out why everything is wrong with chiropractic. Who do we work with? Anybody necessary to help shoulder society's and our community's burden. As if the real problem is back pain is killing the world. You nutballs got to get away from that whole subluxation thing. What you really need to do is treat people for pain. This is what this is society's burden. Back pain is killing human life. That's the theory. What do our educational, political, and professional institutions do? Support the profession to better fulfill our societal and community-based obligations regarding musculoskeletal support, management, and intervention. The reason I'm showing you this is not some fringe group, okay? This is put out into the community right now for the public to see the direction that the chiropractic community in Europe is going. They're not in the shadows anymore. Declaring intentions, a set of consensus statements, meaning this has already been decided. This is the guy they're using to shout it from the rooftops. It's already been decided, you need to go away. You old nutballs that, you know, believe in that crazy theory some old fishmonger from Iowa came up with. There is a message vacuum, and its absent students are gravitating toward the only messages there are, meaning, you know, these young kids, they're gravitating towards this crap. We've got to get him back in the mix to focus solely on back pain, because that's really where the problems lie. Is that heavy enough sarcasm? Or? Okay. Adopt supported by all European associations, educational institutions, and political bodies. So, this has already been decided. You all got to vote, right? It's like when Germany went from the Deutschmark to the euro. You all got a say in that, right? Yeah, no. Inspiring champion presentations from all your favorite groups. These are people that don't make a living standing over a table, but want to tell you what you can and can't do while you're making a living standing over your table. That's politics at every level. And the social media thing. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, not to, that I didn't want any negativity, but it is important that you all live in Europe, that you understand that the rest of the European community considers you a mistake. You've slipped through the cracks, you haven't run through the process of letting anybody control you, and they've been doing nothing but trying to figure out how to get you out of the mix and take away your right to do what you think is right for your patients. Oh, man. Blind. Blind. So, back to the good stuff. Okay, I've been going over this the last few times I had programs just because people ask me about the new logo. The unicorn represents love, purity, and the seeking of natural truth. Philosophy is the eternal search for truth. So, what is it that you're doing here? What are the goals for this weekend? Hopefully, to give you, from all of us, ways to ask yourself more productive questions to better serve your communities. It's philosophy being the eternal search for truth is there's different level of truths throughout your life, right? When I was a child, my truth was a big fat man in a red suit came and left gifts under the tree. That was my truth. And we all have different levels of truth at different stages of our life. The majority of society has that same delusion in their head about health. Most people have no idea what health is or how to achieve it. I don't know about all of you, but I began a few years ago by asking a patient on the first visit, or first apologizing to them, that no doctor ever explained what health is. Most of the time people look at me like, and I ask them, and I have to quantify this in 10 words or less, otherwise there'll be a sermon. Could you tell me in 10 words or less what health is? Most people's answer begins with feeling good. So I usually say to them, so based on your definition, if we all went to the bar and had a few vodkas, the whole world would be healthy, right? Because feeling good has nothing to do with health. There are many chemicals in the world that can make you feel good. And there's all different levels of feeling good. So there are two paths to feeling good. Chemicals, or the result of functioning extremely well. That most people don't know that 80% of people who die, they die of a disease process whose first symptom is death. Think of those numbers. Do you want to wager your life that you're going to be in that 20% where your disease process is going to manifest a symptom by which point everything can be turned around? Because out of that 20%, by the time they're symptomatic, most of the time if they begin a course of disease management, they're not living longer, they're dying slower. Do you understand that concept? Most drugs are just coagulating and preserving the corpse long before it's over. And the chemical industry is coming up with more and more and more powerful drugs because people with a disease may live longer, but what is the quality of their life? Right? So for me, philosophy is mainly getting you to understand how to make a connection with your people, to understand that our role is not to have anything to do with people living longer. That's a level of control that's godlike that you should stay away. That all we can do is help people live a better quality of life no matter how much time they have. Do you get to determine how long somebody lives? I sure don't. All I can do is help people live a better quality of life. How do you connect what you do with people's understanding? That to me is the challenge that every chiropractor faces on a daily basis, and what I feel is the direct measurement of how good a chiropractor is your ability to connect what people want with what they need. Because people leave you and love you. That's a very common thing in chiropractic. Research has shown that 98% of chiropractic patients that leave chiropractic offices are completely satisfied. They just didn't know there was anything more you could do for them. Because they didn't understand that there was anything more than just, I feel great, thank you. I'm sure you all hear this sometimes. A patient will walk up and go, thank you, it's my last day. Are you killing yourself? Are you moving to Taiwan? What do you mean it's your last day? I'm finished. I'm healed. And I think, oh my God, I failed. Because if you ask somebody, how many people want to express 100% life? Anybody? Just a few of you. So the rest of you are just happy with your flame just whittling out long before it's time, right? Because if you ask a human being that's getting ready to leave you, how long do you want to express 100% life? How about forever? Okay, but you're not there yet. The very first time you felt a symptom, your body was functioning at a maximum of 60%, and Helmut Kohl was in charge. So, do you think from that time when you were at 60%, when that guy was running the show, to today, you've decreased in functioning? If you're functioning at a maximum of 20%, but you feel great, what is your long-term outlook? Do you have a chance of dying from old age? So, why is this important for all of you? Because you can't take patients beyond where you're at. Do you all understand that? If you learn how to paint from a painter, more than likely you're probably not going to become a better painter than him. But there's always natural skills and gifts, right? Most chiropractors that are focused on symptoms never see really miraculous changes in their patients. But there are rare exceptions. And welcome, Thomas.
Hello.
So, I want you to have this in your head, that this weekend, that you feel like you're gaining tools to better communicate what it is you're doing to the people that are coming to you to be served. Because I have not yet had someone come in and their expectations were, I want to express 100% life forever. I'm still waiting. You guys, anybody ever said that to you? Any patient? You maybe, not me. Do you understand what I mean? Everybody comes to us for all the same reasons. Well, you know, it hurts right here, and when I bend over and turn to the left and think of uncles, you know, everybody comes to our offices with pain, dysfunction, disease, and they want that gone because that's what the brain says. You know, you have pain and your brain's like, take the pain away, take the pain away, take the pain away, take the pain away. That's normal. But that is an opportunity, while that stuff is going away, for you to provide them with information to understand why it's going away. It's very easy to get carried away when people come in and like, you are a magical healer. You know? No. That's not an opportunity for them to learn if you don't explain to them why they are. You understand? So, the reason I put my logo up in my practice here was this tree of life. Because some of you may or may not realize that we all have a tree of life in chiropractic. And all of our roots lead back to that man right there. Some of you don't know that. A lot of you in the room learned from people that I taught many years ago. And I would never probably have ended up establishing roots in Germany were it not for John Paul. When I came to Europe, I just wanted to live in Europe, and I had a dream of not owning a business. You remember I talked about that? I had businesses since I got out of the military, and I always call it being a slave to a box. And I didn't want to own it. I got a fellowship in pediatrics, and I wanted to travel around Europe and not have a box and not have a house and travel light and just take care of damaged kids. And I had a one-way ticket. She said, I sold my house, I had a lot of money, I wasn't hurting, I could just lay on the beach for a couple of years if I wanted. And the only person I really knew in Germany was John Paul. So I land in Frankfurt Airport, and it's early in the morning, I haven't slept in 2 days, and I called him up. And he said, Mark, where are you? Get on the train, come to me now. So I did. And I got to his office, and he took me to eat a nice Italian meal. La Perla. I still remember that play. And yeah, that's how it started. Everything from him. So whether you realize it or not, all of our roots go back to this French chiropractor right here. So there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from this guy because he's been there, done that, got all the t-shirts, and you're going to get a lot of wisdom from him. The way to begin a new life, stop talking about it and start doing it. I think about this often with patients when I tell people things and I hear, well, not what they're saying, but what I'm hearing is the German standard, we got to have a meeting about a meeting about a meeting. I have to think about it and process it. No, you don't. The gift of being a human being as compared to an animal, because we're animals, but 40% of the anterior cortex is for higher functioning. All animals adapt to their environment. They don't have an ability to overcome that. The gift of being a human being is our ability to create the environment around us. Right? So every second you're alive, you have an ability to change your mind the moment you make a decision. That's where it starts. The most difficult and powerful thing in life is a decision. If you say, you know, I think I might eat chicken today. Yeah, you're probably not going to eat chicken. If you say, I've decided I'm going to eat chicken, you're going to eat chicken because you decided. What kind of chicken? Is it going to be fried? Is it going to... Who cares? You've already decided. So the moment you decide is the moment change begins to take place. How does it unfold? Who cares? Right? So the way to begin a new life is to stop talking about it, stop having meetings, don't think about it, decide. Begin exercising your decision-making muscles today. When you say, I'm going to go have lunch, I think, don't think, decide. And then you're going to do it. How is it going to happen? What is it going to cost? Who cares? Decide first, and then you'll figure everything else out later. Deciding is the hard part. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to... Who cares? You've decided, right? It's like you've taken an order from you. That has power. Stop trying to be perfect and start making progress. One of the many things I've learned in this culture is the pressure on young students that I never felt as an American. Maybe it was tried, it just didn't work with me. I'm not sure. But I noticed this with a lot of young people, is the amount of stress that's in their bodies is as great as any guy sitting in a room working 12 hours a day for 20 years. And it's unbelievably shocking that people whose bones haven't reached the age of maturity have a level of stress in their bodies that shouldn't be there for another 20 years. When I first came here, I didn't really understand why that was. I mean, there were times when I first was working in John Paul's office when I first came here. There were some young girls that I really thought were being physically abused. I talked to them about it. I'm like, how is a young girl have that? What is going on? I don't know what to do. And it took me time to realize that the pressure to be perfect is not achievable. Right? There's some young people in the room. If you don't know this yet, it's not possible to be perfect. We're all damaged. All of us. As soon as you make that decision to understand perfection is not achievable, there's going to be a huge weight lifted off the system that's controlling everything. Because having a goal of being perfect is very similar to a male lion that hasn't eaten in 2 weeks walking into the room. The effect on your nervous system is immediately kicking you into a sympathetic dominant state for you to what? Fight, flight, or freeze. That stress in the nervous system gets you locked into an emotional state, and nothing good becomes of this. Your body needs to not be in this state on a regular basis. This is very, very, very damaging. Okay? So, stop trying to be perfect. Think of it this. If you set goals, instead of trying to be something, set goals. Make them ridiculous. But you need to set yourself up for failure. Because all successful people are very good at failing. And if you've never failed, therein lies maybe why you haven't succeeded. Because you haven't risked everything. So, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, where are you? Outer space. If you want to jump over this rock and you miss, you're just going to fall on your face. So, it's good to create unbelievably, ridiculously unachievable expectations, because when you fail, you're going to achieve a lot. But perfect is a bar that you cannot set for yourself because it's not achievable by anybody. At least not in my experience. You know any perfect people? We're all damaged. We're all broken. It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. That's a little chunk from one of the greatest philosophers, Aristotle. And I think about this with taking care of patients, that I try to quantify what I believe is a patient, because I was a patient for 18 years before I became a chiropractor. And some of you are very trusting. Germans have a tendency to go to doctors and think, yes, my Lord. Me, I think, you're an idiot, and I don't believe anything you say. I don't believe anything anybody tells me. Nothing. I'm not negative. I'm just a realist. It's like weather. I expect shit weather every day. So when I get up at sunshine, it's like a little gift. Right? So I have no expectations of all of you. Nothing. So whatever comes, it's a nice little surprise. So when you're explaining to patients and you're thinking they're getting it, they don't believe anything. I quantify that verbally and tell them, you shouldn't believe anything any doctor says, including me. You're getting information. It doesn't become knowledge without an experience. But the mind has to be able to entertain it before it becomes knowledge, right? If we just discount every idea without considering it, we're never going to gain any knowledge. So I can't say that I'm a complete pessimist or an optimist. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm a pes-optimist. Because I'll entertain an idea from you, but not believe anything. I'll still entertain it, and then see if it works out. Does everybody understand that idea? Because if you don't understand that idea, you're not understanding that people you're talking to, they might, laugh at your stupid jokes and nod and haha, and in their mind are just going, take the back pain away, idiot. Yeah, I didn't come here to listen to all this subluxation crap. Make me feel better. It hurts. Because that is what? The immediate need. That people don't know that nothing is going wrong. Nature never makes a mistake. This is a concept some of you still can't grasp. Well, my mother, she's got a brain tumor. It's perfect for her present need. Why does the body do this? The body's only job is survival. It's not misery. The body is designed to function and express 100% life. But if you pour chemicals into it, sit on your butt, not take care of your nervous system, not get proper rest or exercise, you're going to waste away. And the alarms are going to begin sounding. And then the alarms become organic, and then, oh my God, I got disease. It didn't happen yesterday. I love you because you love the things I love. I had to put that up there for you. This was a handwritten note for B.J. Palmer in 1934. This was something taught at Palmer when you guys were there, right? The concept of giving, loving, and serving out of abundance. And not dominating, controlling, and giving orders. Because for me, I'm always very impressed with these medical doctors that gave up all that status. Because the mindset is, in this culture, doctors are worshipped like gods, almost. At least in the older generation. The younger generation, yeah, question a little more. But to get all of that status, you know, when you're an important doctor, you're the doctor, you're in control. To be a chiropractor is to be a servant. You understand? To go from that psychologically, because I've been teaching doctors for 14 years, and there's some that were really smart, that really, really understood and loved it, but emotionally, in practice, they couldn't let go of, I am the doctor, I am the Lord. And when people are looking for something else, that's exactly what they're trying to get away from. This dominant, authoritative, I am the master, you are the schmigma. So, to make that emotional switch is difficult. To go from being in charge to being a servant, it takes an understanding of how powerful servitude is. The highest calling in life, everybody in life gets to a point, I think, as we mature and we get older. If we're not serving something greater than ourselves, there's an emptiness. As human beings, I believe this 40% our anterior cortex was given to us to think outside of ourselves. So we're not just thinking the necessities, food, shelter, security. We don't live like that, right? You throw a group of people anywhere in the world and some kind of structure and order starts to emerge. Why? Because there's something inside of us that brings us joy to do something for somebody else. It's not like we don't enjoy anything for us, but to give you a feeling of having a purpose, right? There's a lot of unhappy people in the world. At least with my experience in my few years on the planet, I feel like the commonality when I meet people, rich or poor, highly educated, uneducated, they get to a certain age and they're miserable, don't have anything in their life where they're able to give something of themselves to somebody else. Nothing. And when they start doing that, they feel a sense of purpose. No matter how large or small, that it's something in here that makes you want to help do something. What? I don't know. For me, this is it. So, I thought this was an excellent picture. Bad quality, but can you see the look on his face? Because I had a picture of D.D. Palmer adjusting with this old table that looked like this, and I thought it would look a little nicer with a couple of kids doing it on a couple of school tables. Your mind can handle anything. Your body can handle anything. It's your mind that needs convincing. This is a concept that starts with us, right? If you can't think greater than the environment in which you feel, do you think your patients are ever going to be able to do that? What does this have to do with your practice? There are some patients that need your help in your community that haven't come to you because you're not ready to get past that fear. You might think, well, people just come in my office with back pains and headaches. Imagine a patient has been told they have a few months to live. They can barely move from pain. They're taking a lot of drugs. Most chiropractors' bungholes tighten up like fear, fear, fear. I still remember the most radical, eye-opening experience I had when I was early in practice, and I'd just been in Germany for a few days. And John Paul said to me, I was in his office, and he got a call from a family. There was this old man who couldn't get out of bed. He was like 95, 96. And John Paul was busy, and he said, you want to go over to this guy's house and, you know, do a little something in your mouth, and do what you can. You remember that? And, yeah, I think they were expecting him. And I showed up, and he's a lot softer around the edges. So this guy was just laying in this bed, and it was obvious he hadn't moved in quite a long time. So I brought some fingerlings, and I just popped his sphenoid in place, and I screamed at him, "Get up!" And he got up. And his daughter and his granddaughter were really afraid. Because I'm standing behind him like, "Move, move, move!" And I made him walk around the house. And I left. They didn't call me up for a second visit, but I hadn't been in Europe that long, so I didn't know the military method doesn't really gel too well with the German guys. But, you know, this wasn't something I thought of in my headspace that was going to be something I was going to see regularly. You know what I mean? I mean, I was ready to serve, and the thing that practice is the greatest teacher if you're ready. I mean, I didn't have any fear. That's the thing. That was my, I'm not afraid. I don't care if you were on your deathbed, knocking on the death's door, and you may go tonight, I will be there to make your last minutes feel better. I can't fight death, but I can increase the quality whatever time you got. Do you have any idea whatever came to that old guy? Did he ever come see you? I don't know what happened, but I know that he hadn't moved in a long time. And the daughter was standing at the door, you know, she hugged me. She didn't know whether to be happy or just plain terrified that I screamed and chased the old man around the house. I was just happy he was moving, you know, because he just laid in bed, he couldn't, you know, he was happy, you know. So, how do you know that's possible until you try it, right? What if he died the next day? Isn't that good? He just got to run around the house once before he went. Do you know what I mean? Some people have an attachment to the outcome. I had no expectations. I just thought, this is interesting. I hadn't been to a German apartment yet. I didn't know how people lived, you know. I thought it's kind of nice they let the old guy die at home. He's not rotting in some home. You know, it's fairly interesting. So, if your mind is not strong, your body is going to take over, right? And for me, being a simple-minded person, I break everything down to the simplicity that most human beings have allowed their minds to become their bodies. That their body has become the mind. That, you know, you start feeling pain, and the feeling becomes a thought, and the thought becomes a feeling. And every day, the person gets up in the morning and feels stuff and waves the white flag of surrender and surrenders the power of the mind to the body. I can't. It hurts. And, you know, when you get to a certain age, stuff hurts. All of you that are over 40 understand, you know, when I was young and I fell down the stairs, you know, I got up and was like, damn it. You know, I was angry that my pants were dirty. You know, now when I'm older, I fall down, I'm like, checking to see if there's any bones sticking out, you know? So we're in different stages of life that Often when I talk to patients about exercise, they programmed in excuses, right? And said, well, I can't go to the gym because my back hurts. And if they're as old as me, I just start laughing. You know? And I say, if I use pain as an indicator to not exercise, I would never leave the sofa. I wouldn't go to work. I wouldn't go to the grocery store. Do you understand what I mean? Pain is the admission price of life. Suffering, that's optional. But people whose sole motivation is to be pain-free, they're going to have disappointment. Let's say that. So, if you don't understand this, patients aren't going to understand it. That they get on what I call a merry-go-round, a spiral, that at some point they have to leap off. Okay, you got problems, you feel pain. Yeah. I know, I'm adjusting you, but if you just go home and sit on your ass, the pain's never going to go away because you feel pain in the muscular system. You don't feel pain inside the intrathecal system where the problems start. Therein lies the dilemma. Now you're on this spiral. You've either got to think, greater the environment in which you feel, or you're going to end up on a surgeon's table. Because some of you might think, how does that happen? How do people end up doing horribly stupid shit? Because they can't get off this merry-go-round of pain. Right? And they start with drugs. And that might be effective for a while, that it helps them feel better. But eventually the body is going to develop a resistance to the drugs. Now they're living in chronic pain, and now some butcher sharpening his knives going, no problem, ma'am. We'll just slice you open. Woo-hoo! With a bone saw. Put in some titanium parts. There's no going back from that. And I'm not saying there's never a time and a place. Despite my hardcore chiropractic stance, I'm not anti-medicine. Medicine saves people's lives every day, and they get better at saving people's lives. The problem is 4 million people a year are being killed by that system. Why? Is it the doctor's fault? No. It's the idiots who don't understand how the body works. If you go in a Chinese restaurant and you're pissed off that they don't serve a French souffle, you were an idiot. The guy at the restaurant's going to sell you food because that's his job. He's got to feed his family and make a living too, right? If you end up in a hospital for a subclinical condition, you're going to get treatment for a clinical condition, and clinical treatment can kill you. You all understand? Chiropractors, we work in the subclinical. I don't want patients coming into my office after a car accident where they've had trauma. No. You need to go get cleared out. Make sure you don't have a brain bleed. A brain bleed, or a ruptured organ, or a broken spine. I don't clear those things out. That's not my job. Do you understand what I mean? There's a need for everything. But the biggest need is people to understand how this works. People understand their cars better than their bodies. And don't make varicose veins sitting right in front of me. Do you all understand what I mean? There's a spiral that people get on. How do you get them to jump off? It's a leap of faith. Have any of you had extreme situations? How many of you had a life-changing experience with chiropractic? Because I don't know all of you. Some of you? So those of you that had a life-changing experience with chiropractic understand. So it's easy for you to relate that to people. I saw this when I was in school, that the majority of people I went to school with were in school because their father was a chiropractor. I had a friend who openly admitted he lived in Brooklyn, in Hell's Kitchen, and everybody was broke. And a guy pulled up in a beautiful Porsche with a beautiful woman. And this guy was bold. He just walked up and he said, "Hey man, what do you do to have a car like that? You selling drugs?" And the guy said, "I'm a chiropractor. I turn on the power of life." And this guy was a professional drummer in a band, made a living. He quit, and a week later he's at chiropractic college. So you understand that what brought him into chiropractic had nothing to do with chiropractic. It had to do with visualizing the results of being a successful chiropractor. So I can't imagine where he is now or how much he's struggling or if he had a, you know what I mean? That I always say the best doctors of everything, not all, but 90% of the time, the best doctors of everything had a life-changing experience. I have a patient who is an internist, and he's a very old guy, and he started out as an electrical engineer, and he had problems so bad, no doctor could fix him. Like Desjardins, you know what he said? I'm going to go to school and fix myself. He became a doctor, became an internal medical specialist, and he works on people with, you know, understanding the biochemistry of the body. He's not really practicing, he really practices orthomolecular medicine, which is, you know, balancing out the viscera with supplementation. But there's case after case of this, that a lot of us came to chiropractic because some of you may or may not know, I had a broken spine. I was paralyzed from the waist down. The orthopedist told me I'd spend the rest of my life in a wheelchair. My father carried me into a chiropractic office and I walked out. The most dramatic part of that was, it was the scariest, most frightening thing that ever happened to me in my life. If it didn't change my life, I'd have never gone back. It scared the hell out of me. That I actually don't tell this to many people, but my chiropractor that changed my life was not a philosophically based guy. He wore a white coat and had, you know, machines to hook people up to. There was no talking at all. This guy laid me on a table, and what it felt like is he broke every bone in my body. And I was too scared to cry because he was big and mean. And he lifted me up by my armpits and just stood me up, and he said, "Wednesday, 3 o'clock." And I said, "Yes, sir." And I remember this feeling of, this was the most beautiful horror I've ever, and I hated, I use that word, it's not powerful enough. I was so terrified to go to his office, scared to death. My father was a Marine. This guy was a Marine that landed in Normandy during World War II and went to chiropractic college on a GI Bill. And he never lost his command of the beach. And he brought it into the office, which is maybe the very worst bedside manner you can have. As a master sergeant in the Marine Corps, and he was bigger than I am. He was gigantic, over 2 meters. His hands were as big as the steering wheel in my car. And he never talked to anybody. And his wife hooked people up to machines. Have any of you ever had Russian stim? You know what that is, right? You know the physical therapy machines, there's different settings. Russian stim is like, you are going to give up the information quickly. And there's many settings on these old machines, and these were old people. They just had all the dials turned to the right. So his wife, Dr. Strangelove's wife, wanted to get you nice and relaxed before the big guy came in with his meatballs to adjust you. So that's the model I use of how not to practice. Because I know most people look at me like I look that guy, oh my God, he's really going to break me. The big scary man. So you understand that most people come into your office, regardless of what size you are terrified, right? They've heard all the stories. Oh, they've seen Jet Li, who weighs 40 kilos, break a neck with these 2 fingers. Oh! That's what people have programmed into their subconscious. This is not an accident. This didn't happen by accident. This is all the system programming people. Chiropractic's dangerous. Don't go to those people. Come in and get some drugs and surgery. That's great. So, this is a quote by John Lennon, and I thought it was really appropriate. I believe in everything until it's disproved. So I believe in fairies, the myths, dragons. It all exists, even if it's in your mind. Who's to say that dreams and nightmares aren't as real as the here and now? What if this right here is a hologram. What if you are the writer, producer, director, and star of your own movie, and that thoughts are things? What if that's true? If that's true, are you going to think different thoughts? Who knows? If you entertain the thought and you try it out, use your own life as research. That's the only way to truly find out just how powerful the mind is. Begin manifesting something that you thought otherwise impossible. Because when you have an experience, you use all of your senses. What you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you taste. But we don't store experiences based on memory. Our minds don't work like computers. Because, and this is very modern science is finding out that everything is resonant energy. What I did forget to put on here, what I gave to all of your students, is the very first few sentences from D.D. Palmer's first book. D.D. Palmer laid out what chiropractic was in one sentence. Life is based on tone. Tone. All throughout human history, every ancient culture knew this. It's only in the last 80 years that we've been taught to become distant from what and who we are. D.D. Palmer recognized this, and his son came up with a whole bunch of words and got rid of his dad. But if you look at these words, life is based on tone. That he said this at a time when people went to work on a horse. Do you understand what I mean? We're talking about long before even the idea of microscopes. That he didn't just pose a theory, he understood how life worked. He wasn't the first one. My point being is that what we're doing, some of you are still focusing on the meat. Just the flesh, the meat. That nothing is ever going to change until your understanding goes to that higher level, which is controlling the meat. Everything has to do with tone, resonant energy, frequencies. So, in this presentation I did this weekend, even though it's philosophy, it's a lot of scientific philosophy from what is known right now. Not from some nutball chiropractor like me, but mainstream science. All money being spent in the Western world on research is no longer on a sickness-disease model. It started about 20, 25 years ago, looking at the mind-body connection. It's even moved beyond that. So, what's really so ironic to me is that people within chiropractic want to move back to the mechanistic 18th century model before we even, meat. When everything in modern science understands exactly what D.D. Palmer was stating in 1895. He was correct. Every single thing he said was exactly how stuff works. And some of you have never even read the book. There's only one important book to start with in chiropractic, and that's D.D. Palmer's book. B.J. Palmer was great. He was a great salesman, and he sold the world chiropractic, but his father was who was the visionary. Think about today. If you say life is based on tone, a lot of people are going to think you're a nut. Imagine saying in 1895. He's lucky he wasn't burned at the stake. I don't know if you're aware of Newsweek, like Stern Magazine, big magazine, the largest read magazine on the planet right now. Pressed by patients and advancing technology. Healthcare will soon change its focus from treatment to enhancement. You realize how big that is? This isn't some fringe. This is the mainstream media. Okay? Treatment to enhancement, from repair to improvement, from diminished sickness to increased performance. Is that the white flag? I would say so. The transition has already begun. Accompanying this will be an increased emphasis on psychoimmunology, the science that deals with the mind's role in helping the immune system to fight disease, which will become a vitally important clinical field, perhaps the most important field in the 21st century. What are they saying? What do you as a chiropractor get out of that statement? When I read this, it said, it's your time. It's time to come out of the closet, chiropractors. It's time to take your rightful seat at the head of the table and teach humanity how to live an optimally functioning life. No longer are we going to promote treatment. It's failed. 50% of the planet right now has a chronic disease. If you were farm animals, you would have all been put down generations ago. If you raise cows and 10% of them are sick, they all get slaughtered and you start over again. 50% of human beings are sick and dying. Why? Because of a treatment model for the last 80 years. How bad has it failed? We're going to lose half the population. Easily. Those are conservative numbers. The reality is 5 out of every 6 people you know right now are dying from disease, heart disease, cancer, and they don't have a symptom. 80% of those will drop dead with their first symptom being game over. Why? There's a lot of corpses that look good and feel good. What does it have to do with health? Nada. Nada. But this is the system announcing this. This isn't a fringe paper. This is the largest read magazine publication in the world. Molecular genetics in developmental neurobiology. The proper development and function of the nervous system is a primary key to maximizing the human genetic potential of health, healing, and performance. There are still people that believe genetics have anything to do with their health. Some of you in this room still believe that Watson and Crick model from the days when people went to work on horses. Do some of you still believe that your genes determine your outcome? If you do, why bother? Do you understand? When people say to me, sometimes I'll have a patient sitting in front of me whose mother, their mother died of breast cancer, and I say, why bother go to the gym? Why bother eating healthy food if you're going to die from breast cancer? Go home, smoke some crack balls, eat some burgers, you're going to die of breast cancer anyways, right? Do you understand what I mean? How can you say you believe this is inevitable, but you're doing things for your health? Why? Why waste your time? Do you understand what I mean? Raise the white flag and just do what you want to do. Or understand what molecular geneticists are telling you, that the nervous system will determine the potential of your genetic outcome. Because genes are replicating every second you're alive. As you are listening and neurons are firing and wiring together in your brain, your DNA is changing as we speak. Every second you're alive. If you believe you're going to die from cancer, guess what? You're going to die from cancer. That's how life works. Whether you believe it or not, that is how nature created you. You can continue to put your head in the sand and go back to believing, well, you know, Grandpa had bad eyes, so I'm going to have bad eyes. All right. Good. So why bother doing anything? Your genes are just a blueprint. You get a little mom, you get a little dad, and then your structure's built. And what happens from there is determined by you, environmental choices. Why do families tend to get the same disease? Because they tend to have the same habits, think the same unproductive thoughts, eat the same crappy food, have the same unproductive lifestyles. You see other families where you think, I think a child got switched at the hospital. And have you ever seen that? One of my first outpatient families in Atlanta, I don't think words do it justice to say the mother and father were as big around as they were tall, maybe bigger. They looked like human bowling balls. And their children were beautiful and fit. And I thought, oh my God, that nurse at the birthing department really had a sense of humor. Somewhere there's some beautiful people with a couple of unfortunate looking bowling balls. All of you have seen this before, right? Or the other way around. You see a beautiful, fit, healthy couple and their child looks like they're twice their body weight and you're thinking, are you babysitting the neighbor's kid? Maybe you want to take them for a salad or something. So, all of you have seen this. This is, you all have eyes, you're all observing. Your eyes see weird stuff every day, don't you? This is all lessons for you and everybody else. If genetics were your predetermined destiny, we pretty much all look the same. And there'd be like 12 groups of us, right? What your outcome is your choice. And the only person that cares about your health is you. Nobody else. People give you words of support, but you, and you alone, are the only person that cares about your health. And as I'm looking at the chiropractic profession over the last 20 years, there are more chiropractors dying, forcibly retired, and retiring than there is coming into practice. There are some of you sitting in the room that are destroying your bodies at a level that soon you won't be available to take care of your patients because you won't be able to. I have so many friends that don't understand the micro-trauma they're doing to their bodies every day. The first and most important thing is to take care of you, or you're not going to be there in a few years to serve your people. It's great to be a servant, but if you're not physically capable, and I know this myself, constantly, never-ending, trying to find new ways. A few years ago, I thought I was done. I couldn't lift my arms above my head, my shoulders, my wrist were done. You have to constantly evolve and change and find new ways to keep. How many of you know professional athletes in their 40s? But how many is there on a percentage maybe? Is it common?
Less than 10.
It's uncommon, right? When you see a professional athlete in their 40s, what do you say? Damn! This guy or woman, they really, really have a good chiropractor. That's not just what I say, I know this. I know many athletes, men in their 40s, and a lot of them, I met their chiropractors. But I know a lot of chiropractors in their 40s that don't know how close they are to the end. I've had a lot of friends, cannot practice anymore. They hit the wall. Muscles ripped off their bones. Ligaments, joints shredded apart. Every day you're working, it's like being a professional athlete. You are putting massive micro-traumas into your body. Just like your patients. Except on a whole nother level. The traumas you're putting in your body every day accumulate. Micro-traumas. If you don't take care of yourself, You have to constantly find new stuff. You won't be here in 10 years to take care of your patients. And that is the tragedy. That we have so few chiropractors. And out of that bunch, we're just wasting away. You can't be too focused on serving people because this is a living organism. This, we make a living off our bodies, just like an athlete. If you can't get up in the morning, who's going to take care of your patients? You know what I mean? And some of the other people in your office, they have their own patients. But a lot of your patients don't want to see anybody but you. Right? So it's a race to the end. You're going to have a handful of people that you're going to take care of for the rest of your life or theirs. Whoever dies first. Then my kids can take care of them. But if you don't take care of you, to me the biggest tragedy is if you will be forcibly retired long before you have to. Sure, there's a whole thing with the mind, and I think John Paul's going to talk a lot about that, but the body. I want all of you to be able to adjust people until the day you die. A couple of years ago, Sid Williams died. The president of the university I went to. And I called my father up and I said, Dad, this is the way I want to go. You heard about that, right? He went to bed, put his arms on his belly, had a smile on his face, didn't wake up. Near 100 years old. That's the dream, right there. That's a dream I hope all of you have. Not in a hospital hooked up to machines, bleep, bleep, with our, no. You go to sleep, get a smile on your face, you're near 100, over 100, disease didn't take you, it's just time to go to the next thing. That's the dream. How do you do that? You got to take care of all 5 factors of health. First you. First you. Without taking care of you, you can't help your patients, right? Or maybe you can help them for a few years and then, you know, you're like, oh, I remember back when I could really move that sacrum. No, that's the reality. It's funny and it's not. It's a tragedy that some of you in this room in a few years won't be able to practice anymore. And it's not because you don't have the skill. It's not because you don't have the passion. But yes, this is in charge. But this physical meat, unfortunately, philosophy doesn't remove neurological interference. Right? Chiropractic, practice with the hands. All of you need to work on people with your hands for the rest of your life. Think about it. There's 80 million people in Germany. If all of you moved into this building tomorrow, we couldn't serve this whole part of Hamburg. Do you understand that? If every chiropractor in Germany moved into this building and everybody in Hamburg wanted care, we couldn't adjust everybody. We could not adjust everybody just in this one city. If people just in the immediate area in Wandsbek all woke up tomorrow and knew they needed the Power Life turned on, I couldn't. We are so underserved. This country is the most underserved community in the Western world. So, if you're wondering, there are millions of people out there waiting for you to be ready to take care of more than what you're doing now. Fear. I think Alex is going to talk about that because he spent all day with me yesterday. So, did I start with that? 15 minutes. Okay. Listen, I want everybody to take a break. Let's not do 10, 20, let's just do 5 minutes, take a pee, get something to drink, chit chat, and come back. Please have your drinks up front, and then throw the cups away or leave them out. Okay? Thank you.